Hi, welcome back to English 111 Online. This week we're going to continue with Core Project 3, the Data Analysis Project, and the Comparison and Contrast essay that we're going to take from your data analysis. So view my video as you're doing. Review the assignment document for Project 3. I have duplicated it and put it on this week's tab as well. About the United States use the information from the assignment document for Project 3 about the United States, those 3 paragraphs that you patterned your 3 paragraphs that you wrote regarding another country last week. And you're going to use that information, put it together for your compare and contrast paragraph. You also need to create an introduction paragraph, a concluding paragraph, and then you need to pick the way that you're going to organize your body paragraphs, either subject by subject or point by point. You're going to submit your rough draft document on the Turnitin link, and also submit your rough draft to Smart Thinking. I'm not going to make you prove to me that you have submitted to Smart Thinking this time, but do it early enough that you can apply the Smart Thinking feedback to your rough draft when you're making your revisions before it's time to turn it in on October the 16th. So the graded assignments this week then are the rough draft for Project 3 and the inquisitive activities concerning quotations, incorporating quotations and punctuating quotations. And if you want to go to the Little Seagull Handbook to brush up on your quotations or to refer to as you're doing the inquisitive assignments, that is on page 298 to 304 in your Little Seagull Handbook. Okay. So let's take a look at the document that we had last time. You followed it as far as having creating those 6 paragraphs that relate to the country of your choice. And what we're going to do now is pick up with drafting the essay here at number 10. Go back to the Google document that has your paragraphs that you created. So go back to where you submitted those to that document that you submitted on the Turnitin link last time. Make sure you have proper MLA format, Times New Roman, 12-point font, double line spacing, indented first line of each paragraph, separate works cited page, centered, alphabetical order, hanging indent. We only have one source for this, which is the global gender gap report. So we won't have to worry about alphabetical order. When we get to our research project, you're going to have to worry about alphabetical order. So this time, look at your introduction, create your introduction. Remember, the paragraph starts broadly with a hook that interests your readers and then gradually narrows down to your thesis statement. Include information explaining what the Global Gender Gap Report is. You can find information about that in the beginning pages of the document itself. So, just so that your reader will understand where this information is coming from and what this document actually is. You want to narrow the focus down to your thesis statement, and the thesis should reflect the names of the 2 countries and whether you're mainly comparing them or contrasting them. If they're very similar, then you would mainly compare them, and if they're very different, you would mainly contrast them. And you can use some comparison and contrast in there, but just make sure that you have that you're doing primarily one way or the other, and make sure that your thesis statement reflects that. So I put a template in here that you can use for your thesis statement. The blank, and you're going to choose similarities, or the differences or the similarities and differences between the United States and whatever the country was you chose. Show that make a point about the two countries. Illustrate that whatever the point is you want to make about your two countries, or suggest that whatever the point is you want to make about your two countries. And then so that went over to the next page. Statement of purpose, the point you wish to make in your essay is what would go on that blank. Now, in writing the conclusion last time, I suggested that you start with your thesis statement and then find something that will get your reader interested in reading your essay, and then go back and in between create this connection from the thing that is getting people's attention to the thesis statement. So that would be your introduction paragraph, and then your body paragraphs. Well, you already have those. You can arrange them, though, subject by subject or point by point. Subject by subject, you might want to start with the United States, and then you would have your point of comparison and contrast one, which was the economic participation and opportunity. Excuse me. The second paragraph would be about the point of comparison for educational attainment, and then the third paragraph for comparison about health and survival. And then, so you'd have 3 separate paragraphs there, each with a topic sentence. And then you would go to the next 3 paragraphs would be what you found out about the other country and the paragraphs that you wrote for last time. So you should already have all the paragraphs you need for this. Now, when you're arranging this, deciding if you're going to do it subject by subject or if you're going to do it point by point, and I'm going to look at point by point with you in just a moment. When you use the paragraphs, I'm going to let you use the paragraphs that were already written for the United States. Just put all of that in quotation marks as you use it, and that way we won't have everything and you can reference the page number just the way that it was done in the paragraphs that were written for you, the paragraphs that show up in this document. So if you put it all in quotation marks, like at the beginning of the paragraph and at the end of the paragraph, for that should eliminate any similarity problems, or else we'll end up with everybody having like 45% similarity, which we really hope that won't happen. I think that will work. I think that will solve it. If it doesn't solve it, then you don't worry about it. I'll figure it out, and we'll know that that's where the problem came, is from you using the information I already gave you. The other part of the essay, though, needs to be the quotations, the punctuation, the page numbers, the in-text citation, and everything needs to be the same as it was for the United States paragraphs that I provided you a sample of. And those also, the ones that you got from your country, whatever your country is, they also need to have those in-text citations with the page numbers in it. Then you're ready to write your conclusion, and we'll talk about conclusion in just a minute. But if you decide to do it instead of subject by subject, oh dear, I've lost my document here. Let me. Having a hard time here. Okay. Let's look back up. If you decide to do it point by point, this thing is slow when I'm doing it while the video is running. Point by point, you would do it the same way. You'd create your introduction with your thesis statement, and then you would have point 1 paragraph about economic participation and opportunity in the United States, and then second paragraph of the body paragraphs, economic participation and opportunity in whatever country you chose. And the same for the second point, the educational attainment in the United States, and then another paragraph, educational attainment in your country that you chose. And then the last point of comparison, health and survival in the United States, and then a separate paragraph for economic health and survival in another country. And then you're ready to write your conclusion. And in your conclusion, you want to start with a restatement of your thesis, not word for word, but something that brings it back to the point of your essay, what it is, what point you're trying to make about these two countries and how they're similar or how they're different. Remind your readers of the similarities and contrasts that are important to their understanding of the point. In other words, kind of summarize the points of comparison that you've been through, and gradually broaden the sentences out to end with an interesting concluding point. For instance, one might hope that more United States cities, I need to take that out. I love the way I edit as I'm explaining it to you, but believe me, I'm not going to go back and start this video over. So forgive me, but anyway, so broaden the sentences out to end with an interesting concluding point, something that you might want to make about the 3 points of comparison as they apply to the United States versus the other country. Then you will have, of course, insert a page break to get to your works cited page. And then on your works cited entry, this is what you would put. The name of the report in quotation marks. It came from the website is theworldeconomicforum.org in italics. And then this is the URL to the PDF that you've been getting your information from. And then the date that you accessed that to write this essay. That date that I put on there was just a date that I had looked at the report, but you put the date on it that you're looking at, that you've last looked at the report to get your information. Make sure that you get your smart thinking feedback. It's optional as far as having to prove to me that you've done it, but it would be very helpful to you, because you all told me that it was helpful to you, and I could see how that it would be very helpful to you. You want to get your peer review. Again, this is something optional. Get somebody else to read it. Get a classmate, a family member, a friend, somebody who is willing to read it for you and to see what they say about your essay. And then look at the feedback that you're going to get on your rough draft submission as I make comments on that. And then you'll complete your final version and upload it on the Turnitin link. This counts 15% of your core assignment grades for the course. So just follow the directions step by step. I was pretty careful. I did make a boo-boo up there, but I was pretty careful to give you step-by-step instructions for doing this. I'm trying to introduce you to how to do information, how to create the essays, how to have your works cited entries, how to do your in-text citations, all of these things, so that when you get to the point where we get to the research paper, then you ought to have all this by then, and you ought to be able to create your own works cited entries, and you ought to be able to use in-text citation well. And if you get information from a graphic, you'll be able to translate it into text, which is what is called for in MLA format. We write in text paragraphs instead of including graphics. So that's what we're doing this week. We're putting it all together for the rough draft comparison and contrast. Now you may want to go back to last week's tab and look at the comparison and contrast template, not the template, excuse me, but the slideshow presentation, because it had some transition words that you might want to use, like in contrast to, say you used India. In contrast to India, the United States has da da da. So use those transition words. Remember, your goal is to make whatever you're writing very readable for somebody who picks it up. So make sure you explain it well. That's what expository writing is all about, explaining. So just make sure that what you write ends up giving a good textual explanation of all this data that you've been looking at. And make the comparisons, how they're the same, and the contrasts, how they're different, evident to the reader, and that's what the transitions will do for you. Okay, so upload your rough draft before midnight on October the 9th. The final will be due before midnight on October the 16th. So even if you don't wait to get comments from me on the rough draft, you can go ahead and submit your rough draft to Smart Thinking too. So you'll have the benefit of that before you turn in your final document on October the 16th. And as always, if you have any questions or anything that I can help you with, just contact me and I will be glad to give you individual explanations if that's what you need. Thanks, and have a great week, and I'll see you next time.